give it up for Mary.
Hi there. He's awesome, isn't he? And I feel black right now. Well, hi, everybody. What an amazing group it is. And I have to tell you, I first got the call from Hannah to speak to you, and she said, will you come to Creative Mornings? I first thought, I've never heard of that. And then I thought, I'm not creative. What are all these creative people don't want to hear about me? And then I started thinking, it's true, everyone is creative. And when she said, we want you to speak about commitment, I thought, commitment sounds boring and dull and just getting on the train and making it run, but it is really so much more than that. It is also creative. So I'm going to talk about commitment, and I'm going to share a little bit about my story, and I'm going to share a little bit about my journey and what brought me to where I am today. And really, more than anything, it's about reinvention of myself and how all of us have that in us to reinvent ourselves while we are committed to our family, community, and most importantly, to our purpose and to ourselves. So, what is commitment? Commitment is the state or quality of being dedicated to a cause, an activity, a purpose, etc. And my commitment currently is to the Foundation for Oklahoma City Public Schools, but I've only been in this role for a little less than 4 years, and I had a lot of lives before that, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. But first, I want to say that commitment to our kids, these magical, wonderful kids who have all the potential in the world, is the most important thing for any of us to do. And you being an audience that I've never met most of you. There are a few people here I know, but all of these wonderful, creative, young people, you all kind of look like hipsters. And that's really cool. I'm not that, but I love it. I love that Oklahoma City has this resurgence of young people. And if there's one message you take away today, I hope it is that your engagement and your involvement in the future of Oklahoma City is the thing that we need more than anything. And if you see something that you don't like in this community, do something about it. And the reason I'm at the Foundation for Oklahoma City Public Schools is that I saw something in our public education system that I didn't like. And I thought, I can sit back and I can watch and I can listen to people complain about it's hopeless and it can't be fixed, or I can do something about it. And so I did. I did it for the 46,000 kids that go to Oklahoma City Public Schools. 46,000 kids attend Oklahoma City Public Schools. Of that 46,000, 90% of these kids live at or below the poverty line. And I would venture to say that the other 10% are right on the verge. They are living in households that are struggling to make ends meet. 54% of them are Hispanic. That is the primary growth in Oklahoma City, if you didn't know it, is in our Hispanic community. Oh, there we are. More than 13,000 speak a language other than English at home. And I say that because you think of yourselves, there may be some of you in the room that are bilingual. I'm not. If I went into a classroom and the teacher was speaking Spanish, I would struggle. I would have a hard time. So we've got kids that are really struggling because they don't understand their teacher. So a lot of supports have to be put around them to help catch them up. 18,000 of our kids will attend more than one school in a school year. That means they are, thank you. That means they are transient. We have, and that is living in poverty. That's what that means. We have parents who are many times going from apartment complex to apartment complex or rental home to rental home because they're evicted or find the next best deal, and that's that living in survival mode, and that's what that does. So when kids are moved, they are changing schools, which also makes it really difficult for them to stay caught up. And just in Oklahoma City Public Schools, we have more than 3,000 kids who are homeless. And that puts additional burdens on these kids and their ability to learn. In addition to that, our kids they just live with trauma. There's trauma that comes with food insecurity. There's trauma that comes with incarcerated parents. There's trauma that comes with domestic violence in the home and drug and alcohol use. And so many of those things can happen anywhere in any family, but in high poverty families and poverties that have lived in generational poverty for many years, it is especially prevalent. So I have no slide here now, so will you move that for me? And the reason this is important to you and to everyone in this city is because these are our kids. And that's another message that I share. They don't have to be our kids because they live in our homes, but they are our kids, and we need to take responsibility for them. These are our schools. Even if we have our kids in Edmond or Putnam City, these are our schools, this is our community, and this is our city, and that's why everyone needs to care about that. Thank you. So, next slide, if you would. Commitment takes a sense of purpose. I think you've heard my purpose, and all of you, I'm sure, have a purpose as well. Commitment takes persistence. Commitment takes grit. It takes resilience, and it takes creativity. It takes creativity to reinvent yourself, which I have done a number of times. And I want to share a little bit about what I've done in my story in terms of reinventing myself and in terms of staying committed to my family and my community and my purpose and myself. What I figured out is that I have a pretty good growth mindset. And if any of you all haven't seen the book Grit by Angela Duckworth, check it out. It's a really good book that talks about how developing a growth mindset will allow you to continue to grow and learn throughout your life, and it will also allow you to overcome any challenges that you may have throughout your life. And I don't think there's anyone that hasn't had some challenges. If you've never had a challenge, raise your hand. Oh, I thought that would be the case, because we all have our story and we all have challenges. So a growth mindset is made up of many, many things, but I wanted to highlight a couple of them that are really meaningful to me. Acknowledge and embrace imperfections. Hiding from your weaknesses means you'll never overcome them. This is a tough one for me because I have always been pretty driven, but with that, the downside is I've always thought I had to be perfect. And I've pushed myself in ways that probably haven't always been healthy. And it's really just been in the last few years that I figured that out. God knows what I've done to my daughter because of it. She's sitting right here. Because I just always was striving for perfection. And that doesn't mean that I've let go of striving for excellence, because I will never lower my standards and I will always strive for excellence. But letting go of imperfection is pretty liberating. And it's really helped me say, it's okay. It's okay to say I'm not the strongest in this area. It's okay to say that I need help. It's okay to be imperfect. Another piece of growth mindset is viewing challenges as opportunities. Because everyone in the room has said they've had challenges, it's really about how you react to them that matters. And if you view them as opportunities and take the onus of this is an unreachable obstacle, I can't get over it. If you see it as an opportunity, then you have a way to get through it. Cultivate a sense of purpose. Believe you're here for a reason. I'm pretty sure I was born that way. I'm pretty sure I was, going back to the days when I would go out and take care of wild dogs and bring ointment and medicine for them that my mother was appalled that I would do. But I thought, I've got to help these dogs. That was my purpose then. I've had a lot of purposes, but believe you're here for a purpose. And make a new goal for every goal accomplished. You'll never be finished learning, and this is so true. I am certain that I'm older than everyone in this room, but I'm still learning, and I'm still growing, and it's such a nice place to be, to 56 years old and think, I have all this ahead of me that I don't yet know, and maybe I will go skydiving one of these days. Next slide. So let me tell you a little bit about my story. I told you about helping the dogs. I was raised in a very, very middle class to lower middle class family. My dad was in the Air Force. He was a pilot. And it was during Vietnam. He was gone all the time. I remember him. And we moved every couple of years. And at one point I was born in Texas, Amarillo, lived in Southern California, lived in South Dakota. We moved to Okinawa, Japan also. And my dad had been gone so long, when we got to Okinawa, I got off the plane and it was just onto tarmac, and I went running to a man in a flight suit, gave him a big giant hug, and it wasn't my dad. That's how long it had been since I'd seen him. The man was delighted that this little kid came and hugged him, but I think it broke my dad's heart to see that. But that was our life. And living on Okinawa was an amazing experience. I honestly saw all of my moves as an adventure. And I would be so excited every time I went to a new school to say, oh, I get to look around and figure out who all of my new friends are going to be. And my sister and brother, who were older, thought I was so weird for that, but it really was a challenge. It was an opportunity that I took every time I went into a new classroom. So lived in Okinawa. It was towards the end of the Vietnam War. My dad was seeing things that no one should ever see, and he had a really hard time talking about it and started drinking a lot. And, I think back then I never would have known what that would be called, but now it's really easy to see that he was an alcoholic. He was a really nice one, but he was most definitely an alcoholic. So he retired from the force, brought us to Oklahoma, which is one of the moves that we made that I wasn't excited about the challenge. I was in high school then, and as we were packing up to leave, my friends and I, all we knew about Oklahoma was proud to be an Okie from Muskogee. So we sang that a lot, and I had no idea what we were getting into as we moved to Oklahoma. My dad had grown up in Northern California. My mom was from and we didn't know why we were coming to Oklahoma, except my dad had a really good friend that we'd traveled with in the Air Force, moves, who died when we were there. He was from Oklahoma, and his widow and children moved back here, so my dad brought us here. That's how we ended up, and now it's my home. But anyway, we got to Oklahoma. I finished high school, went to college. My parents got divorced. And shortly after that, when I was early in college, my father was diagnosed with cancer, and he died just before I turned 20 years old. And my mother, who'd always had some mental health issues, undiagnosed, really just fell apart. So when I was 20 and 21, I became her caretaker. She just never learned how to take care of herself. And when I was 21 years old, I couldn't find my mom. She went missing. Finally figured out she had barricaded herself in her apartment and was ready to kill herself. So I drove her to a mental hospital where she stayed and went through some treatment and got out, but she really never was able to take care of herself. She's still living. She's in a nursing home now that my sister runs. So my sister and I talk about, I had my mom for all those years, from the time I was 20 until about a year and a half ago when she moved into the nursing home, and now it's my sister's turn. But I took care of Mom always. And so here I was, a young kid. I didn't have a father. I didn't really have a mother. And then there was this guy who had been such a good friend of mine in college, who was there, and he asked me to marry him. And he had graduated from college and moved to Liberal, Kansas, and I said, okay, yeah. He'd been a good friend. There was not a love thing, but I said okay and did it. And so moved to Kansas, and the one really amazing thing that came out of that was this one right here, Madison, who came from that marriage, but Jim was gay. And so don't ever do that. That's another piece of advice. It is totally fine to be gay, and I'm so tolerant and accepting and love all people, but just don't do that. It doesn't really work for a number of reasons. Jim is a very good man, and he's been with his partner for 23, 24 years, so he's found happiness. He was never a very good father, but that's another story. So I packed up my mom, my daughter, my beagle named Bailey. Am I going late? Okay. And in my minivan, drove back to Oklahoma City, reinvented myself, started over, was hired by the Journal-Record to sell advertising, and was there for 20 years and found something that I really love to do and managed to outstay a number of publishers till finally, when I had the opportunity to take it over as publisher, I was going through that. Can I really do this? Am I really qualified to do this? I'm not sure if I can do this. And then I thought to myself, I am not going to train another publisher. By God, I'm doing this. This is my job. So I was there for a really long time, remarried and married a man who adopted Madison and thought that my life was set. Although then I started thinking, when I was in my early 50s, what's next for me? What can I do in the time I have left? I feel like I'm finished. I really got to the point where I felt finished and thought, I don't wake up every morning excited to go in and face the same problems at the Journal-Record. What can I do? And I needed a new purpose, and that's when I found my way to the Foundation for Oklahoma City Public Schools. I loved my career at the Journal-Record. I loved what we did. I loved the team we created, but there is nothing that is a greater purpose than doing something for these kids who need our help so much. So found my way to the foundation and have absolutely loved every minute of it. I had so many people tell me, are you going to be bored? You're used to a bigger staff, you're used to so much more, and I tell you, I have not been bored 1 minute, because I believe the job is what you make it. If you want a big job, you can make it a big job. And I have done everything in my power to create an environment of this is a place that can make change. This is a place that can make transformation for these kids. A final piece of the story, my story of reinvention, is that it was September 22nd, going on 2 years ago, 2 days before Madison's birthday, when my husband of almost 23 years came home from a business trip and said, "We're done." And I thought he was joking, because he joked. And he said, "No, really, we're done. I don't love you. I don't want to be with you. We're done." So he really meant it. We were really done. And after all the cajoling and begging and pleading with him and feeling like the life had been sucked out of me, that one brought me to my knees. I realized that I could also reinvent myself again. And he is remarried to a 35-year-old. And I say, good riddance. But I'm over being sad, and I'm over being angry, and I am so excited about what's next in my life. And I put this, my story, my ending, I have this piece of artwork that I bought myself. It's a Brene Brown piece, and it's in my bedroom, and I can look at it every day, and I realize that all this drive and all this work on my career and everything I've done has led me to this point where I can honestly say I am so at peace with where I am and with my imperfections and with my drive that wants excellence in everything. I can still be me, and taking care of yourself, taking care of myself has been the best, most amazing experience the last couple years, along with a support system, including my daughter, that is beyond belief. We need people in our lives, that's for sure. So that's my story. That's my story of commitment. That's my story of reinvention. That's my story of creativity, I think. And I have to tell you, I'm very comfortable speaking in front of people. Talking about myself is something I'm kind of having to get used to. So thank you for the occasional snaps that I got from this side of the room, because it's a tough thing to do. However, I also feel that being able to share your story, and if maybe it's touched a few of you in some ways that have had to overcome challenges, then it's worth it. And on my last slide, I have a quote that is so meaningful to me, not that it's because it's Winston Churchill, which I could give or take, but success is not final, failure is not fatal, it's the courage to continue that counts. And isn't that what it's all about? No matter what the obstacle is, no matter what the challenge is, it's what you do with it. And it's how you pick yourself up and dust yourself off and keep going with a purpose and a commitment that makes it worthwhile. So thank you all very, very much for letting me share.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, we're going to do some question and answer. Any questions? Did she cover it all? You don't have to ask questions. Yes.
I'm going to date myself, but in John Marshall, back in the day, we used to get the students out into the community and the full diversity of the power structure there in the building, and everybody loved it. The cross-generational, cross-cultural conversations. Can't we, as a city, make a commitment to getting? Why can't we have our students, high
Thank you, John. That I'm absolutely, and providing these kids with opportunities that they don't have otherwise is so very critical. And I think that's an awesome idea, and I would sure be happy to try to work something out. I know Roosevelt Middle School, it's a little very Hispanic population middle school in South Oklahoma City. There's a teacher there, Felix Linden, who is incredibly visionary and creative, and he's started a mentoring program where the middle school kids at Roosevelt go to Adams Elementary and they mentor those kids. He also has them going out one day, and it's called One Day, where they go out into the community and they do public service. And these are kids that they don't come from anything, but he's teaching them that no matter what, giving back is really important. So if you all as an organization would be interested in connecting with some of our kids, I would love to help with that. I tell you, we're also doing a reading initiative called Read OKC, where we're recruiting reading buddies to go into classrooms to work with kids. That is a way that for an hour a week, you can connect with a child or a couple of children and make a tremendous difference in their lives. So if you're interested in being a reading buddy, connect with me also, because that takes very little effort. If you can read and you like kids, you can do that. And we've got a whole set of guidelines and training and all of that to make it super easy for you. But we're wanting to make every classroom and every student who needs that extra help given the chance to work with a caring adult. I've done it for 4 years now at Adams Elementary, and what I get from it, the relationship that I've developed with these kids is just incredible. And I know they love to see me also, but I feel so uplifted every time I'm there. So thanks, John. Yes.
I'm asking this as a mom whose daughter will start in Oklahoma City Public Schools next year. We've chosen to publicly educate as a specific purpose-driven decision for our family, despite having needs to do other things.
Thank you.
There's so much disillusionment after the lockout ended. What do you see as a way forward for us as a city and as the education? What do you think we need? We've been having conversations around this just as concerned Oklahomans, and I'm just interested to know, as someone who's so has your whole heart invested in that, what do you see as the way forward, and what can we do as citizens to make a difference?
That's a really big question, but a good question. First of all, thank you for believing in OKCPS, because your kids will have an amazing experience, and with your involvement, it will be even better. The walkout, was one of those things. I was so supportive of that happening and ended up being brokenhearted by it, because it went on too long, and that's one piece of it that maybe others aren't maybe surprised to hear me say that, but I feel like once we got what we were going to get, it lost its power, and I hated that for everybody. But we've also got to keep fighting, and we've got to do that by voting, by running for office. We've got to make a change at the state legislature. We've got to. The people that are there now, not 100% of them, but the majority will say they believe in public education, but they're not showing that with their actions. And it has to change. At the same time, though, we've got to be innovative and creative in the ways that we are leveraging our resources. Check out our website, okckids.com. What we're doing and what we're trying to do is really take community support and help fill in the gaps. And when I say it's our students, our kids, our schools, our city, I really mean that. Our schools can't do it alone. We've got to have help, and we've got to have help in terms of financial resources, but it's also about volunteering. It's about being a reading buddy. Do it. just sign up and do it, and you will get so much out of it, and you'll be helping our schools. So there are so many ways to get engaged as we struggle through the funding issues that are so real. And honestly, I have heard so many legislators say, there's just so much waste. There's so much waste. If everybody would just take good care of their money, they'd be fine. And those teachers get the summer off, and it just couldn't be further from the truth. I've run a business for many years, and what I've learned about the school district since I've been there is that they are on a shoestring, and they have cut as much as they can cut. Are there little tweaks here and there? Of course, because that's true everywhere and in any organization, but they are running on a shoestring. So we've got to change the people who make the decisions about that. But in the meantime, sending your kids to Oklahoma City Public Schools is a gigantic help. It's a gigantic help because we need people who are involved in their kids' schools every day, and that makes a huge difference. So hats off to you. What school? Wilson. I love Wilson. And you've got a new principal coming who is the most awesome woman. I love her.
My father and my grandmother went to Wilson.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
That does not apply to this, but it's a cool little family.
But it's a great school. It's a great school. And you know, I was one of those people that worried about the school for my daughter and had her enrolled at a private school and went to orientation where they were putting out the uniforms and the pencils and all of the supplies that we had to get that were perfectly coordinated and matching. And as I was standing there in line with her little bitty girl, I just felt this overwhelming epiphany that I can't do this. This isn't right. This isn't right. This isn't me. This isn't who I want her to be. Nothing against private school kids, but it was just not us. So we marched out, and she went through her schooling at Putnam City. So public education is the foundation. Yes. Uh-huh. I love therapy dogs, and they're actually have a volunteer that has a therapy dog that goes in and spends time with kids. They've got a lot of special needs kids, but really that dog, his name is Buddy, it spends time with all of the kids, and it makes a huge difference. If you know of sources for therapy dogs, get with me, because I think that'd be a wonderful thing to add. Yes.
So I applaud all the wonderful things you're doing. I build schools for a living, and I've seen a lot of changes in Oklahoma City. I went to the board meeting this past week and listened to you talk. And as I looked around, I was very surprised that there were so many people there. What do we need to do to help that board? How can we help Oklahoma City more besides being present?
Well, yeah, it was really not very well attended, was it? Though I have been in there when it was standing room only. And it depends on what's on the agenda, you know, because people are allowed at the board meetings. Did everyone hear her question? Was how can we support the board? I spoke at the board meeting Monday night, and there were empty seats everywhere. But I have been many times when it's you can't move, when the public wants to come and complain about something. The answer is so complicated as to what do we actually do about the board. The Oklahoma City Public Schools has a long history, decades of superintendents coming and going. In fact, we've had 13 superintendents in the last 20 years. That leadership, lack of continuity makes it just virtually impossible to move things forward. There is no business can operate that way, no organization can operate that way. And so until there is the right mix of the superintendent and board support, it's just going to continue being the same old thing, and that's also unacceptable and doesn't do anything for our kids. But I think there is a way that we can step in, and we can step in by accepting the responsibility that it can't just be about the superintendent and it can't just be about the board. It has to be about all of us, the community, saying we won't take this anymore and we're going to help. And so I feel like that's what we focus on at the foundation, and I think we're really having an impact. But as far as the broader question, it's a big one. There's going to be a new superintendent named on Tuesday. Yet another one. This will be my 4th superintendent that I've worked with in less than 4 years. So it's a real issue. I have some additional thoughts that are not, I can't speak of in public. But needless to say, I am plotting a few things.
We'll go ahead and wrap.
Wrap up. Okay.
Yeah.